What's going on YouTube? Your boy Price Man reacting to another video here on YouTube. This time, game of the week, shootout of 86, Marino versus Ken O'Brien, Jets, Jets. Let's start it.
One of the NFL's best matchups is the Miami Dolphins and the New York Jets. And last Sunday at the Meadowlands, Dolphin coach Don Shula confidently marched his troops into battle, knowing full well that he possesses a weapon that no other team can boast, quarterback Dan Marino. Marino is the reason the Dolphins are defending AFC East champions. And with him, Miami will always be contenders not only for a division title, but for the league championship as well. Jets quarterback Ken O'Brien is coming off a 1985 season in which he led the NFL in passing. And his rapid climb to the top has New York hoping that, like Marino, O'Brien can be their ticket to the Super Bowl. Certainly, Jets head coach Joe Walton would like to see his team develop the consistency that produces Super Bowl contenders. His Jets are trying to rebound from a thorough beating at the hands of another AFC East rival, the New England Patriots. But on this Sunday, Walton must find a way to handle the explosive Dan Marino. Perhaps the best way is simply to match him pass for pass, touchdown for touchdown. Get set for offense, and then more offense.
I will say this, man. I love hearing the old narrators for some of these old games. I mean, they just don't do it like this. It's just not the same. That's all I'm gonna say. I just wish you can get that passion that you're hearing in this announcer's voice. I mean, he's really describing this in detail. I love it. Just love it. Old-timey language, the whole nine.
It's the New York Jets hosting the Miami Dolphins on the NFL Game of the Week.
Love the 80s
The game's
music.
first important play was not produced by either Marino or O'Brien, but rather by Jet punt returner Kurt Zone, number 87. Zone's slashing 27-yard return set the stage for the initial score of the contest, a 32-yard field goal by New York place kicker Pat Leahy. Strangely enough, over 10 minutes of the first quarter had elapsed, and Leahy's three-pointer was the only score. In a game that featured two of the NFL's finest quarterbacks, more was expected, and it didn't take long for more to take place. It doesn't matter how well you play defense. You cannot hold Dan Marino and the Dolphin passing game in check for very long. Following the field goal, number 13 attacked New York's injury-riddled secondary, throwing sideline strikes to Mark Duper, number 85.
Looking like Broadway Joe. And I say that because Marino patterned his game
From the
after
Jets'
Broadway Joe.
6-yard line, Marino closed out the drive with this bullet to rookie wide
Not his game,
receiver
but his
James
release.
Pruitt, number 82, who fought his way into the end zone.
Nice quick release like Broadway Joe used to have.
Pruitt's first receiving touchdown in the NFL gave Miami a 7-3 lead, and it would stay that way through the end of the first quarter. In the second period, however, the scoreboard would never stop, flashing numbers at the dizzying pace of a pinball machine. The Jets had the first ball, and Ken O'Brien went to tight end Rocky Cleaver, number 89, who banged off Dolphin defenders on his way to a tough 21 yards. Cleaver did everything but ring up points. That was left to running back Johnny Hector. Hector, number 34, starting in place of the injured Freeman McNeil, scored New York's first touchdown. finishing off a 10-play, 83-yard drive with this burst from a yard out.
Johnny Hector from Texas A&M.
3 minutes into the second quarter, the Jets had gone ahead 10-7. The next 12 minutes of this AFC East game would produce 5 touchdowns. And in the process, the Jets would tie a team record for most points scored in a quarter. But for now, the difference was a field goal.
Mark Gastineau.
And the New York defense prepared to contain the league's most explosive quarterback. Not only did they contain Marino,
Lance Mel.
they forced him into an interception as safety Lester Lyles, number 26, picked off this errant toss and returned it deep into Miami territory. Again, it was Hector who got the Jets into the end zone, this time on a quick hitter up the middle from 8 yards out.
Nice fluid running right there.
Suddenly and dramatically, the Jets had pulled in front 17-7. But at this point in this game, the score was nothing more than a formality. The action was about to reach a frenzy that produced not only a bunch of touchdowns, but some of the most exciting offensive football you'd ever want to see. When it comes to offensive football, the Miami Dolphins take a backseat to no one. The reason is an offensive line without equal when it comes to pass protection. And of course, Dan Marino. Marino has the quickest and deadliest release in the game, and he flashed his lethal wing following New York's second touchdown. This 42-yard aerial to Mark Clayton was the big play in a quick striking drive that ended with his short toss to tight end Dan Johnson. It didn't take long at all for the Dolphins to get back in the contest. It was now 17-14 New York, but the Jets and O'Brien committed their first turnover of the game as Miami cornerback Don McNeil, number 28, plucked this pass out of the air, giving the Dolphins excellent field position at the New York 13-yard line. From there, Marino made short work of it, throwing his third scoring pass of the half. This one to Mark Duper in the corner of the end zone.
Half of the Marks brothers. Mark Clayton and
With
Mark
5 minutes
Duper.
remaining until halftime, the Dolphins now led 21-17. It was rather clear at this point that the Jets' defense would not be able to control Marino. The question then was, can the Dolphin defense, shell-shocked on opening day by a Chargers attack that scored 50 points against them, somehow manage to hold New York's powerful offense under wraps? The answer would be no, and two of the main reasons were O'Brien and wide receiver Wesley Walker, number 85.
And for those of you who don't know, Wesley Walker was legally blind in one eye. I forget if it's the left or the right eye. One of his eyes, he was legally blind in. So,
on an important 3rd and 14 situation with just over 3 minutes remaining in the second quarter, Walker left the Dolphins secondary gasping for air as he sprinted into a different time zone with a 65-yard score. The Jets had their third touchdown of the quarter, and they regained the advantage 24-21. The Jets would get another opportunity to score late in the half on a freak play that resulted in a fumble and a New York recovery. On this Dave Jennings punt, Miami rookies James Pruitt and Raina Thompson collided, with the ball hitting Thompson and bouncing into the hands of Jets special teamer Matt Monger, number 58.
horse collar. Got that horse collar tackle.
Monger's effort was brought back due to the rule that says that a botched punt return can be recovered by the defense, but not advanced. It didn't matter, however. On the next play, with the ball at midfield, O'Brien and Walker again teamed up for the quick strike and the quick six. The score came with 40 seconds remaining in the first half and was the Jets' fourth touchdown of the second quarter, tying a team record. The Jets and Dolphins had combined for 6 touchdowns in the period, and the entire half saw O'Brien and Marino total nearly 500 yards passing. But as the first half came to its thrilling conclusion, 2 heroes were beginning to emerge. One was a swift wide receiver named Walker, with a special knack for outrunning secondaries to the end zone. And it was this talent that had the Jets ahead 31-21. The other hero was a young quarterback who was quickly moved into the elite group of performers that make up the NFL's superstars. Ken O'Brien may not receive the public attention that a Marino or an Elway generate, but this efficient field general is rapidly proving himself to be the equal of any quarterback in the league. And in the second half, Mr. O'Brien would state his case even more assertively. Most NFL quarterbacks would have been thrilled with the numbers Dan Marino had piled up the first half alone for an entire game performance. But the Miami passer never ceases to amaze, and he continued right where he left off as the second half began.
Jumping off sides.
Dan's fourth touchdown pass of the game and his second to Mark Duper covered 46 yards.
Other half.
And was almost embarrassing in its ease. Taking full advantage of the Jets' injury-riddled secondary, Duper simply ran past all the New Yorkers and found himself practically waiting for Dan's scoring toss to fall from the sky. With Duper's touchdown, Miami trimmed New York's lead to 31-28. And Mark's Cheshire Cat smile was contagious. Soon all the Dolphins were grinning from ear to ear. After giving up a whopping 28 points to the Jets in the second quarter, Miami allowed no scoring at all in the third period as the New York offense sputtered. Getting a handle on the ball proved to be a recurring problem for the Jets. And when the Dolphins sacked O'Brien...
That's probably like the last great tight end the Jets have had, Mickey Schuler. And how long ago was this? That's a damn shame.
And then recovered his fumble, Miami was poised to strike again. Number 99, George Little, alertly gobbled up the miscue. And then for one of the few times in the game, Miami successfully ran the ball, with number 22, Tony Nathan, picking up big yardage. It then appeared that Marino was about to pick up another touchdown pass, but he just missed connecting with Mark Clayton over the middle. The Dolphins settled for 3, and kicker Fuad Reveiz came through, connecting from 44 yards out. Miami had now completely erased New York's halftime lead, and soon the Dolphins would reclaim that lead for themselves. Once again, the Jets helped Miami's cause with another fumble. This time it was running back Dennis Blygen, number 23, who lost the handle. Linebacker Mark Brown recovered at the New York 25, and Marino was off and winging again. Duper was stopped just short of the goal line. But after 2 unsuccessful running attempts, Marino called a play-action fake. The Jets bit, and the result was touchdown pass number 5 and a new Dolphin lead. Tight end Bruce Hardy hauled in Dan's dart, and Miami was back in control. The third quarter had been totally dominated by the Floridians. They scored all the points, controlled the game tempo, and consistently took the ball away. New York fans were beside themselves. They would soon be singing a different tune. A dramatic fourth quarter was coming up that none of these fans or any of the players would ever forget.
80s
While the
music.
Jets continued to struggle in the second half, the Dolphins continued to ride the golden arm of Golden Boy Dan Marino. If Dan's Big Apple performance had been a Broadway show, it would have won him rave reviews and a lengthy and profitable run along the Great White Way. At one point, Marino faced a 3rd and 29 situation at the shadow of his own end zone. But Dan's Houdini-like escape got the Dolphins out of trouble. Marino was so hot that at times it seemed he was completing passes to everyone. And in fact, that's just what was happening.
Look at that rollout. Great.
Unfortunately
great
for Marino, this pass didn't count. But the bullets that Ken O'Brien was firing in the fourth quarter certainly did. The Jet quarterback was showing decisively that Marino wasn't the only good passer to be playing in this game.
Altoon.
A big catch by wide receiver Al Toon set up 3 more O'Brien completions as the Jet attack finally began to revive itself. Inside the 10, running back Dennis Blygen atoned for his earlier fumble, and suddenly the game was tied again. The Jets appeared to be picking up momentum. After holding Marino in check, New York regained possession in hopes of notching a go-ahead score. But another Gotham miscue put the ball right back in Miami's hands.
Nice little goofy 80s music right here.
The officials ruled Wesley Walker had possession before he fumbled. The Jets felt otherwise. The bottom line was Miami had the ball, but they didn't keep it long. Only the time it took for Marino to fire touchdown pass number 6. With Mark Clayton's diving grab, the Dolphins took the lead with only 3 minutes to play. And then the beleaguered Miami defense held the Jets in their next possession. Now with time running out, Miami could wrap up the game if they could accumulate even 1 first down. But this time Marino was not going to do it. On a day when Dan had 30 completions for almost 450 yards and 6 touchdowns, the Dolphin quarterback could not extract the last 10 yards that would have finished off the Jets. In fact, Miami nearly shot itself in the foot by almost fumbling the ball back into New York's hands. With barely a minute to play, Ken O'Brien took over. And with the help of clever-handed tight end Mickey Schuler, the Jets began an incredible march to the end zone.
Beautiful, beautiful play.
After dishing off to Johnny Hector, Schuler used the threat of a similar play to freeze the Dolphin defense and get out of bounds to stop the clock. Schuler caught one more pass. And then with 5 seconds left in the game, Ken O'Brien faced a 9-man secondary in a seemingly hopeless situation. But then that hopeless feeling vanished quickly. With no time left on the clock, Wesley Walker came down with a catch. O'Brien fired the ball between 5 Dolphins. Wesley had his 3rd touchdown catch of the game, and with the conversion, the contest ripped into overtime. For the 3rd time in his career, Walker had collected a trio of scoring grabs in a single game. But none was ever as dramatic as this. New York had come back from the dead, then added to their good fortune by winning the overtime coin toss. But then it looked as if all their heroics were about to go by the wayside, as kick returner Michael Harper, number 84, appeared to fumble the football away.
Another 80s classic track.
In another controversial call, the referees ruled Harper's progress had been stopped before the bobble. The relieved Jets weren't going to give anyone the chance to change their minds. On the 5th play of overtime, Ken O'Brien and Wesley Walker hooked up again. or one of the most sensational conclusions of
There
any
it is,
game
baby.
ever.
Game winner, Wesley Walker from Cal.
With Walker's team
He's a
record
golden bear.
4th touchdown reception, the Jets had pulled out one of the most
That's the
zany,
University of California,
improbable,
Berkeley, for those
and utterly
that don't know.
unbelievable
They call
comeback
themselves
victories
Cal.
in the annals of football. It capped off a day in which the two teams combined for 884 passing yards, the most ever in NFL history. 479 of those came from Ken O'Brien, whose leadership and moxie was equally as impressive. 35 years ago at the old Polo Grounds, a baseball player named Bobby Thompson hit a home run to propel the New York Giants into the World Series, one of the most dramatic moments in sports. Many New York fans admit they witnessed Thompson's blast. Now in 1986, there's another event which can make a New Yorker boast, "I was there." It was the day Wesley Walker hit a four-bagger of his own. 4 amazing touchdown catches to beat the Miami Dolphins, give the Jets an astonishing win, shatter league and team records, and make both player and fan utter in gasping acknowledgement, "That was the greatest game I've ever seen."
Yeah, what a beautiful game. This held the record for most passing yards for quite some time. I think it wasn't until the mid 2000s or the early 2010s that this record was broken for most passing yards in a game. I would have to fact check that, but this record held for the longest time. But with that said, man, great game. You know, it's just classic games never die. People still talk about stuff of the 70s and 60s from various sports. Just great games just don't go away. Now, with that said, man, I really love this 80s Jets. They were before my time, but man, just watching them, I'm like, damn, what could have been there? But I will say this, man, I like watching some of the crowd, the people in the crowd in some of these games, just look like working class people, and just that's that's what's missing in a lot of sports these days. Now there's a bunch of like suits and everything. Don't get me wrong, I'm all about making money. Go make your money, but it's like, sports was right for the regular people for the longest time. Now it's just too corporatized, and then I wonder if sports are scripted now, or were they always scripted? It makes me wonder. I mean, there's some games and plays I'm like scratch my head. It's like, yo, who got paid off for that? Like the Browns and Steelers game, that bad snap with Ben Roethlisberger. I think it was Pouncey. He basically did like a hand gesture to the center Pouncey to tell him to back off, and then the Browns recovered it and scored a touchdown. So just little things, makes you wonder: is the game fixed now? Has it always been fixed? But I'm gonna leave it at that. Till next time.